Hello everyone and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop. This is Colin and today we're going to do a playthrough of Terminator Genisys, Rise of the Resistance. Now, this is a game that totally flew under the radar. I had not even heard of it. One of our friends from Slack, Chuck, had mentioned how much he enjoyed the game. I decided to take a look at it. It has great reviews on BGG, so I went ahead and purchased it. And I am really enjoying it. I have to say I've only played Mission 1, and I've only played it one time, so this is only the second time I'm playing it, but I'm so excited about playing it that I thought, well, let's go ahead and do a playthrough. You guys can see what you think, and if we enjoy it, we might do a couple missions, because from what I hear, the missions can be pretty unique and provide a very different experience. So that is something to note. I am going to do Mission 1. There'll be some spoilers specific with these Waypoint tokens, and a little bit of the story, so if that's a problem, feel free to stop watching now. Otherwise, what we're going to do, we'll start with setup and then we'll jump into the playthrough. First part of setup, of course, is picking a mission. This is a mission-based game, so the base game comes with 7 missions, and you can play them either as one-offs or as a campaign. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm playing as if I'm playing a campaign. So let's go ahead and read our mission. Mission 1, Gathering Supplies. It all comes down to the next few hours. John Connor fixed each of us with his dark brown eyes, making sure we all took his words to heart. Everything we fought for, bled for, and died for is on the line. Everyone who gave whatever they could, including themselves, now it's time to make sure those sacrifices weren't in vain. It all comes down to the Colorado team and us. And then, just as quick, he grinned. No pressure, huh? That's John. Fearless, determined leader one moment, yet somehow able to set his soldiers at ease in the next. The three of us smiled back. Kyle's grin faded as quickly as it appeared. The Guardian, the first programmed T-800 we took from Skynet, smiled too, a creepy grin stretching across its face like a death's head. Dang, that thing gave me the creeps. Always had. The mood lightened in the back of the jouncing cargo truck, but only a little. For John was right. The next few hours would determine whether the Resistance lives and Skynet dies. After Judgment Day, the remains of humanity were left scratching out a bare existence in the steel, mud, and bones of the nuked world. We almost didn't make it, until John rose up and brought us with him. He showed us that it wasn't over, that as long as even one of us still drew breath, we could fight the machines. And that's exactly what we've done for I don't know how many years now. And John has been there at every step along the way. It's not that we would follow him into hell. Heck, we're already living there. But his unstoppable spirit has often been the reason we still fight today. And now we're on the brink of doing what many thought was impossible. The Resistance was on a mission to stamp out Skynet once and for all. That's not our mission, however. Today, John is leading us somewhere else. A remote work camp where the machines take captured humans to work until they die. Oh, that's terrible. There's something important about the camp. John knows what it is, but he's kept it to himself. It must be something big, though, to take us all the way out into the nuke-hot desert instead of backing up the Colorado team. But first, we're making a stop along the way. Unlike machines, unlike the T-800 riding with us, humans need food and weapons. We need clothes and shelter. The endos can come at us all day and all night, 24/7. We need supplies to live. We need supplies to fight. Scavenging is the second thing people learn out here. Killing the machines is the first. The truck stops at what looks like the remains of a military base. Gunmetal gray steel bunkers, pitted and scoured from decades of harsh weather, rise from the ground. Sand dunes taller than me are piled up near the main entrance. John sent the Guardian to scout ahead. With the shriek of the protesting metal, a blast door was wrenched open. Weapons at the ready, we cautiously entered. Here we can see the map setup, so you'll see this is on my table as well. I can almost get the whole map on the table. If only I could get my camera a little bit higher. But there will be 3 spawn points for enemies. This is our starting zone. This also shows you where all these different obstacles will be placed. So there are different types of obstacles. We've got supply crates. Supply crates we can actually interact with, and I'll show you that in the playthrough. The blast door, there's one blast door. It's going to be placed there. That one we can also interact with. The 2 hexed obstacles, those are simply just obstacles that take over 2 hexes. Those ones we can simply stand on. It takes an additional movement to do so, and then that helps provide cover. And then we have 1 hex obstacles as well, and those ones which are not supply crates. So the supply crates you can see have that little red on them, so that's a supply crate, that's a supply crate. The 1 hex obstacles are these other ones. Once again, it takes an additional movement to move into them, but then it provides us with a little bit of additional cover. We have here our mission setup. I'm going to go ahead and show you this now just so you can see it. So we have our objectives. Our objective will be to locate and pick up the 3 supplies, which are waypoint tokens. So we're looking for 3 of those waypoint tokens. We're going to be placing out, I think it's 5 of them. Yeah, 5 of them on the board. So 2 of them won't be supplies, the other 3 will. We also need to get all characters in the truck, not the trunk, the truck. And you enter by using the half-hexed sides. You'll see that in a second. This tells us the waypoints that we're going to use, which is Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. We'll shuffle them and place them out on the board respectively. Over here it tells us what cards we're going to use. So there are 3 levels of equipment, at least in the base game. I'm going to get the expansion, but I don't have it yet, so I don't know if that adds more. But we start with just a total of 3 levels, but our equipment deck and our weapon deck will only be level 1. And then we need to have the reference cards for Supply Crate, Blast Door, and Passenger Seat. On this side of the board, we have our enemy pool. Now, this is one of the coolest parts of this game. So I am going to play with 4 players. So I'm using all 4 that come in the base game. Each one will assign a specific color to them. And then those enemies will spawn. You can see these enemies are in color coordinated. So we have red enemies, blue, white, and yellow. So if you were only playing with 2 characters, you'd only grab 2 of these colors, maybe red and white. And so you'd only have that enemy pool. What happens during the game is you will always spawn from this enemy pool. And whenever it's your turn, when you roll for reinforcements for the enemies, you'll only pull from your line. And this is like a conga line. So you'll always take from the front. And anytime you defeat enemies, and anyone can defeat your enemies or the enemies of your color, they'll go back in the back of the line and then keep spawning out. So it's a nice way to limit the amount of enemies that get on the board, but also at the end of your turn, when you activate the enemies, you will only activate enemies that are your color. So that really adds a lot of tactical decisions because you can decide the order of who's going to activate. So it might be better for someone else to activate than you if you've got a lot of enemies on the board where people are in range. You're going to see here there's only 2 types of enemies. So I have the 2 types of enemies already set up. They are the T-800 and the HK-8 drones. Finally, because we are playing campaign mode, it says each character begins the mission with 1 rank token. All characters begin with only their starting cards, and then no class cards are used in this first scenario. Here I have the enemy conga lines set up, and you can see each one has a different way it's set up. So there might be a drone and then a T-800, a drone, or 2 drones, 2 T-800s. Technically, you guys, this is a drone, but one of my drones broke with shipping, and that is something to note. These are really flimsy minis, okay? They're not the greatest. I need to get some more super glue so I can super glue that one back. So this is here just as a place marker for myself. So if ever I need to get another drone out, I might have to swap bases or whatever, but this just helps me remember, okay, that's what should be there. So how this will work is whenever there's a spawn, the spawn will come from here, these will move down, and then whenever we defeat any of those enemies, they'll go to the back of this row and then keep cycling through. Here we have our 4 characters. We have our Guardian, the Terminator. We know who that is. We have John Connor, who we just learned a little bit more about. We have Alex, and we have Kyle Reese. Let's look at each one in detail quick so you know how they work. Let's start with Kyle Reese. So Kyle has some starting equipment. He has his plasma assault rifle and a plasma canister. He can use these during the game. What you're going to do is roll your dice up and then actually do a dice placement game. Essentially, you're going to be placing them in different spaces on either your player board or on your weapons themselves. And we'll see how these all work during the playthrough. But let's say, for example, I want to attack with my plasma assault rifle. I can place a die here, and then I get to roll 3 of the attack dice at a range of 6. Cool. And if I place a 5 or a 6 die here, I can re-roll one of the results. So that's where, if I roll a higher die, I might want to use it here. Every character also has 2 moves places, and so those you'll move equal to whatever amount of pips of a die you put there. So that would allow me to move 6 spaces. If I put this here, I'd move 1 space. You can interact. We'll see how that works in the playthrough. And you can rest. If you place a die there, you heal 1 of your 3 wounds. If ever you take 4 wounds, you're downed, and then people can come and try and help you to get back up. But yeah, that's you don't have a lot of health in this game. You have essentially 4 health. Everyone has special abilities, and then here, this denotes when you have activated. You make sure to put yourself at done to state I've completed my activation, and it helps you keep track, especially if you're playing 4 characters like I'm doing. So for Kyle, he can place a die over here in this attack area, and this says the action space copies an attack action space on one of your equipped weapon cards. So that means if I had already used 2 dice here to attack with my plasma assault rifle and I wanted to attack again, I could place another die there and actually use the plasma assault rifle a 3rd time. Kind of nice. We also have here, for Kyle, you do not pay additional movement points to move through obstacles. So I mentioned before those yellow obstacles, you'd have to move an additional or use an additional movement to move onto them. Don't have to do that for him. Now, whenever he's rolling and his ability is attacking, whenever you're rolling the attack and defense dice, if he rolls a fist, he can activate this fist ability. And you can activate it as many times as you roll it. He gets +1 hit to his result if he rolls that fist icon. Finally, you can see he is the white character, so whenever he finishes his activation, the white enemies will then activate and will also spawn. Here we have John Connor. John will be blue. I did forget to mention we all start with that 1 rank token. That can be used to re-roll your activation dice or re-roll an attack dice if you want to. It's pretty nice. So he'll be blue. He has a plasma assault rifle and a med kit. His 3 abilities are... Oh, and I also forgot to mention, everyone will have a grenade token. Now, inherently, they don't do anything. But one of our characters, Alex, actually starts with an EMP grenade. He will then use that token for that. So you just have it for when you draw those cards. Initially, they won't do anything for you. So his first special is you can place any numbered die. That's why there's a question mark there. It says 1 other character in your zone can borrow this die without rolling it on their turn to perform an action. Really awesome. I love that ability because he can let someone else do 1 additional thing, maybe get an additional attack off, something like that. He also gets to place an extra rank token here. Once per round, a character in your zone ignores 1 wound. Flip this rank token to mark when you've used this ability. So from what I understand, every round he can prevent 1 wound. Great. Because remember, you can only take 3 wounds. If you take a 4th one, you're down. And finally, if he rolls a fist when attacking, he gets to ignore one of the alien sides of the, or Terminator sides of the dice, because normally that will activate something bad. So he gets to ignore it. Here we have the Guardian or the Terminator. So he is yellow. His 3 specific abilities are attack up to 2 adjacent enemies, roll 3 attack dice, and apply the result to both. Oh, I love that. He also has an ability, if you use a 5 or 6, you can only use a 5 or 6 in this rest action. When you use this action to rescue a downed character, they remove 1 extra wound. Helps people out to survive a little bit longer. And then when he's defending, if he rolls a fist, he can ignore 1 of the Terminator icons. He has a plasma shotgun. Now you can see this range is only 4 instead of the other 2 that we've seen are 6, but he gets to roll 4 attack dice. But that also means you have more chances of rolling the alien face. And then he has high explosive rounds. Finally, we have Alex here. He's going to be red. He has the plasma rifle, so that can attack at a range of 8. Insane. He gets to roll 3 attack dice, so it's only 3, not 4 like the plasma shotgun, and he can activate it twice. He also has this EMP grenade, so he'll actually be able to use this grenade. I'll show you that during the playthrough, very likely. He has 2 pretty awesome abilities up top here. When using the interact action, you may change this die to any value. So a lot of times when you interact with something, you have to roll a 4, 5, or 6 in order to activate it, or maybe a 5 or 6. Or even the door, you need a 6. He could place a 1 there and change it to a 6 and be able to interact. He also has a special here. This die must match an enemy entrance. Any character can discard this die to use its value instead of one of the reinforcement roll results, basically helping manipulate where the enemies are spawning. Finally, when he's defending, he can re-roll. If he gets this icon, he can re-roll all of the Terminator icons. Here we have the Waypoint Tokens that we're supposed to use for our mission. I'm going to go ahead and flip these over, shuffle them up, and then place them on the board respective to what the mission states, but I will not know which one is which. Now, these Waypoint Tokens get activated not when you're next to them, but it's when you move into the zone, and I'll show you the zones during the playthrough and how that works. Here we have our starting tile. Now you're going to see I actually have our heroes in colors. That's specifically for you guys. Normally, they do not recommend you put these rings on your heroes or characters because you might think that they're enemies and accidentally activate them. But I find, especially with shooting with this camera, since I don't have them painted, you might have a hard time in determining who is who. Heck, I have a hard time. So this way I know, okay, white is Kyle, we've got blue is John Connor, yellow is our Guardian, and in red is Alex. So that way, when I'm moving them around, you'll actively be able to tell, oh yeah, that's red. And also it helps us remember, okay, if I'm activating Alex and he's red, that means all red enemies on the board are going to move. Here we have our equipment and weapon cards. I only have the level 1s of these, not the level 2s or 3s or any starting ones. I've shuffled them up, and then we'll use these during the playthrough. We only have 2 enemy types out, so I'm going to go ahead and just have the 2 enemy cards out. We have the T-800 and the HK-8 drone. So this tells us their defense. In this game, to kill one of the minions, you have to do enough damage to kill it right off the bat. So you have to get 3 hits in order to defeat the T-800. If you get 2 hits, it doesn't do any damage. They all also have a Terminator ability. So if you roll that Terminator icon, they will do that ability. So this states for the T-800, if at least 1 Terminator icon is rolled when defending, move 1 hex closer to the nearest character, then 1 adjacent character suffers 1 wound. For the HK-8 drone, it says dodge. If at least 1 Terminator is rolled when defending, cancel 1 hit. Also, the HK-8 drone is flying, so any of the obstacles have no effect on them, doesn't slow their movement. The T-800s, if they move onto an obstacle, it will take that additional movement. Something that's a little bit weird, and it's hard for me to remember, they do not benefit from obstacles, but we do. So I don't exactly know why thematically, but just know that the obstacles are benefits to us only, not to them. So if they're on an obstacle, they don't get that plus defense like we do. You'll see here, this tells you the movement of 4. They attack with 3 dice at the range of 6. The HK-8 drones attack with only 2 dice, and they have to be at a range of 2, but they can move 8. Here we have our reference cards for the blast door, the truck passenger seat, and the supply crate. So the blast door, while it's closed, it's considered a wall. You can interact with it with a 6, and you remove it. Here for the truck passenger seat, all hexes on the truck that do not have a label are passenger seats. When attacking, count range and draw a line of sight from the hex on the truck, ignoring the truck's red outlines. Now, I'm still not entirely sure if enemies can actually come onto the truck and chase you down. I understand they can't shoot you while you're in the truck, but maybe they can come onto it. So how I'm going to play it is they'll actually try and board the truck if you're the closest character. Finally, those supply crates. First of all, use it as cover. So you can see that you can stand on top of it and use it as cover, which is awesome. Hide behind it. You can interact with it, but you have to have a 4, 5, or 6 to do that while adjacent. You remove the supply crate, draw 2 equipment cards, and immediately get them or give them to any characters in your zone, including yourself. If those characters don't have ready available slots, they can make any adjustments and discard as necessary. You can also use your interactive ability to share items with people that are adjacent to you. I almost forgot to show you on this specific mission, if we're gathering supplies, so if we flip over a waypoint token and it's supplies, we then have to get adjacent to it, use a 4, 5, or 6 to pick it up, and we're now carrying it. And you can see here it tells us to use the supply crates and blast door reference cards. And then for enemy reinforcements, which at the end of each of your turns, you will have an enemy reinforcements, you roll 2 dice. Dice that do not place an enemy have no effect on this mission. When you roll those 2 dice, this is an example of one of the places an enemy can spawn. So if I roll a 5, then I would spawn the farthest most enemy in my conga line into this spot. And what they do is they go here or here. You get to choose. With this, I think we should be set to play. Now you can see over here, we're starting here. The truck is here. That's where we need to end after we find our 3 supplies. So what I'm thinking tactically is going ahead and moving up this way, coming around, opening those blast doors that we've got over there, running this way, and then coming down to the car. We'll see if that actually works. All right, let's go ahead and jump in. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the playthrough video.